many people have said that this season is way better than last season. Now, is that true? Yeah, I mean, kinda. Most of the shows are a lot better, though it's also worth noting that the bad shows this season are also pretty fucking bad. But we're not here to talk about those bad shows. Instead, we're gonna focus on the good ones. Now, admittedly, all of the good shows are pretty much popular, so you probably aren't missing out on too much. But just in case, let's go through some of the new shows, not sequels, that are worth your time. First up, we have Blue Period. You like art? Well, you will after experiencing this show. We follow an honors student who is a bit of a delinquent as he discovers his passion for creating art. It's honestly a beautiful story as someone experiences joy of pursuing a dream, as well as the hardships that come along with it. Being in a world filled with talented people, how will someone that just started making art survive? It's a really nice show that makes you care about art as well as the people in it, because the characters themselves will be a major driving force throughout this series. Now, at the time of writing, this is the most popular show for the season, so you've probably heard of this, so I'm just gonna put out some nitpicks as well. The pacing is a bit fast. I feel like there are quite a bit of developments in terms of our main characters, getting good at arc, that are cut off. Like, we lose a lot of his development as he gets better at his art, as he puts in many, many hours day after day. So the anime in the end somewhat focuses less on the art and more on the characters, but I think it's still worth the watch. Though, if you want, also check out the manga, yeah. Also, I'm going through these in order of popularity at the time of writing the script. I think the last two switched order. I'm not going to switch the order here though. Next up, Komi Can't Communicate, the well-beloved manga that finally received the amazing anime adaptation it deserves. It's one of my favorite anime this season, but will you feel the same way? Let's face it, you've probably heard enough about this show, so let's talk about why you might not like it, For starters, as the title implies, the story revolves around a character that cannot communicate, and her quest to make 100 friends, with our main character, who became Komi's first friend. Now, this is a comedy, so the focus is a bit more on that, in the sense that the general developments of both the plot and the characters may be a bit slow for some people. So it is one of those types of shows which obviously are not for everyone. Now granted, part of the reason it was slow development is because the manga came out weekly, and some chapters were like 4 pages, so, that can be addressed in an anime. But I will say, even if this isn't the type of show you would normally watch, I would still tell you to give it a chance. Like, the animation and just like how over the top they went in making it really fun, like it's amazing. It's genuinely really fun to watch. But of course, if you need like an actual story in your anime, then just keep in mind it's not focused on that, obviously. Tacto P Destiny. I don't know if it's tacked up, I don't care. A much anticipated show, a collaboration between Mappa and Madhouse, and one thing I can absolutely guarantee to you right now is that the animation is of course very good. But what is this about? There's a helicopter outside, but I have 10 subscribers, so who gives a fuck? We're in a world where, for one reason or another, very destructive and dangerous creatures exist that are attracted to the sound of music. Now, if you were to read an actual synopsis, why this is a thing is explained, but this is kind of explained in like the 3rd episode, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. That's kind of edging spoiler territory in my mind. So naturally, everyone in this world or country or something have stopped playing music, and the thought of even hearing music is enough to cause fear, as it would attract these creatures that would, destroy everything and kill them. But our focus isn't on the everyday person, it is instead on our group of characters, a music cart and a conductor, who essentially use the power of music in order to defeat these creatures. I know that sounds really weird, but it looks cool, and I think it has potential to be really interesting. But definitely go into this more to just appreciate the animation in those fight scenes, because it is really damn good. I do have faith that the story will hold up, I hope. I want it to, otherwise this will be one of the disappointments of the season. But so far, so good. Mieruko-chan. a horror comedy about a girl that begins to see absolutely terrifying ghost-type things and has to pretend she can't in hopes that they leave her alone. The first couple episodes start off with a couple of fan service scenes. Those first couple of episodes are also the only episodes that should have those fan service scenes. I don't really know why they were there to begin with. Or why they stopped, I guess, I don't know. Either way, this isn't an ecchi, so if that made you feel weird or something, don't worry. And if you hadn't started to watch it, just be aware that you'll see that, but it won't continue. But in terms of these terrifying ghosts, she does her absolute best to avoid them in order to avoid danger for both herself and her best friend and, everyone around her. But being able to see them means she can see who they're attached to. Are they angry? Are they sad? Are they happy? She can learn a lot about people just by seeing the ghosts that surround them, So how will this influence her life? What choices will she make now that she has more information than other people would? It's really fun comedy, and looking forward, there will also be some pretty emotional moments as well. So it's definitely not just the same thing every episode. It's really fun. The world's best assassin gets reincarnated as an aristocrat. I didn't write the whole title, I hope that was right. So, at least one isekai had to make it in, and this one seems to be the most interesting one. It's a sort of power fantasy, except there's an actual reason why this person will be overpowered. It was an old man that was the world's best assassin that kinda, got killed off for, one reason or another. And the goddess of the world he's getting reincarnated to has a request for him. And that is to kill the hero for her, since she herself cannot interfere with the world too much. Of course, she can help him by coincidentally giving him a couple of really powerful skills that he chooses, wink wink, but she can't actually do much more than that. Of course, I don't know who's stopping her, but I don't know if I want to know either. And yeah, that's the gist of it. He essentially has to be reborn with the knowledge he had prior, raised in a new family, another family of assassins, and just develop his skills to one day kill the hero. I just think it's really nice that there's an actual reason why he was chosen instead of some wimpy, pathetic loser, And there are other aspects that make this pretty interesting as well, like the fact that the hero is actually significantly more overpowered than he is. So how will he go about killing him? And also, why must he be killed? Now, the reason is explained relatively early on, but once you hear the reason, right, you want to know the reason for that reason. If you decide to watch this, you'll know what I mean. But I'm looking forward to learning more about this. I know isekai aren't for everyone, but if you're gonna watch any of them, I'd say this is the best one. Paladin of the End. We have a child named Will who, for one reason or another, is being raised by 3 undead beings. He has essentially lived alone with them for his entire life, being completely isolated from any other humans. If they even exist. But that doesn't mean that the child has had a bad life. These undead have been taking good care of him, he's been learning both combat and magic from them, and has been raised with plenty of love. But who are these undead? Why are they raising this child? And how did they get this child in the first place? I mean, if he exists, he must have parents. What happened to them? So far, there are a lot of interesting questions to think about relating to both the main character as well as these undead, and the state of the world in general. It's definitely a really interesting fantasy setting with a lot of world building to look forward to, and this could be amazing. Sacks&Guns, another show that has a lot of potential with its world building. This world has been pushed underground, where people now live in the labyrinth and are just trying to survive. We follow a father-daughter pair who work as workers, which I think just makes them minors, in mechs, because, Except the daughter, who is super smart by the way, wants to be a marker, who are the group of people that explore the labyrinth and all the secrets that it may hold. And as we eventually see, the girl gets her wish and begins her journey into the dangerous underground world, following in the footsteps of her mother. It's definitely a really, really interesting world potential. At the moment I'm recording this, I have no clue what's under there. I have no idea what I'm looking forward to. Could be shit. I'd like to think it'll be really good. One small worry is that the CGI for the monster creature things was not the best. Hopefully that's not a big issue. I mean, I'll probably be watching this more for the world than anything else, so it shouldn't be an issue, but something to keep in mind. Daisho Maiden Fairy Tale. A cute slice of life rom-com, that's all this is. Kind of. See, there's another slice of life rom-com airing this season that I am very much enjoying, but I chose to talk about this one because of one simple reason, which is that this has a bit more going on to it than just two people falling in love. It's not too complicated, but the extra layer is really interesting. And that layer is that the main character was disowned by his family, to the point where he is now considered dead. Yeah, it's a bit of a dark backstory that accompanies the cute life of him and the bride he was given, before he was dead, wink wink. On one hand, they are developing feelings for each other, and on the other hand, he has to struggle with his life knowing that he is essentially all alone. It has its fun moments, it has its interesting and dark moments, and I think it's a good watch. The Heike story. Now, this show will not be for everyone. Now, obviously that can be said about every show in this video. What I mean is that it isn't exactly my type of show, but it's definitely a show that many more people would probably enjoy. The art style is really nice, the animation is good as well, and it has some nice music. What about the story? It is extremely dialogue heavy with a lot of characters, many of which have somewhat similar names, so if you don't like dialogue, you'll probably not be paying attention, and the story will end up being quite confusing. But the main aspect of the show revolves around the war and politics of the Heike, and their attempts to take control over Japan. Now, a bit of research shows that this is based off of an existing story from like 800 years ago or something. So they sort of took that and adapted it and changed some things, mainly the fact that we have our main character, Biwa, and the story is being told from her perspective. Now, the thing with her is that she had her family killed by the Heike, I think. One thing led to another, and eventually she ended up living with them. And she also happens to have a power in one of her eyes where she can see how someone is going to die. I think that's the main change from the story 800 years ago. But basically, if you're okay with the dialogue-heavy stories, it's a pretty interesting one. Ranking of Kings. The last show in this video, but definitely one that needs to be watched by many more people. I remember when I saw a bit of the trailer and was looking forward to seeing more, and so far this has absolutely delivered. It looks beautiful, and the story looks really interesting. The ranking of kings itself is straightforward, powerful kings on top, weak kings on the bottom, straightforward stuff, shouldn't need to explain more. I don't think they've explained more than that. And we have our main character, a prince who was born deaf and is quite weak in terms of fighting. But despite these issues, he wants to become the greatest king, but he's not living the best life so far. As mentioned, he isn't particularly strong, so it's within the realm of possibility for his younger brother to be the heir instead. On top of that, being deaf and not being able to really communicate with others means that he doesn't really have any friend. That is until he meets a shadow, Kage, which means shadow, that wants to rob him, and ends up being his first friend, at least from the eyes of the prince, who is meeting him every day to give him stuff. How will this meeting shape the prince's future? And will he succeed at becoming the top-ranked king? As something just a bit different, this is wonderful, and please check it out. So these are 10 shows that I think are worth a watch. There are, of course, many other shows this season that I think are good, just I wanted to highlight these specifically to have some level of variation within the shows. That way you can hopefully find a show for you. So yeah, that's it for me. Thanks for watching. Bye.